Hey, everybody. It's Jamie Drew, and welcome back to the Bliss Code podcast. We are again in another live session inside of our private Facebook community where you can come in and connect with my connections, my friends, my family members, and get some insight into their expertise and, to help us level up and really grow together and to really call in the lifestyle that we desired. And one of the most important ways for us to call in the lifestyle that we desire is to embrace our nutritional health. And so today we have the most amazing, most special guest to me, my sister, Kayla Hopkins. Kayla is a registered dietitian and her specialty is gut health. So if you have issues or have family members, friends, whatever with gut issues, and I know this is a lot of people, and even though everybody doesn't want to admit it, it is sometimes, something that's really serious for a lot of us. So listen up to what Kayla has to say. GI health is her specialty, and not just her specialty, her passion. And she's excellent at this. And she goes not just around the country, but around the world, speaking to and enlightening her peers in the medical profession about nutritional health, gut health, the trends that she sees among her patients and with the research that she does, and how we can transform our way of life when it as it pertains to eating, basically, right, Kayla?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction and thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're my sister. And I love taking advice from you because you always keep it real. And because you're so passionate about it, you have a sincere knowledge about it. You go deep with it. It's not just surface level. And not only
Yeah.
that, but you are doing your best every single day, day in, day out to live your word. And I love people who you believe in it so much that you're doing it, because it's like,
Mhm.
how can somebody believe what you're saying is true or even achievable if the expert's not even doing it?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you'd be surprised how often that happens, I think,
Yeah.
but it
Hmm.
it definitely does.
So I think that the people want to dive right in. I want to
Okay.
talk about IBS. I want to help people understand. I want you to help people understand, because maybe I'm not the expert, what IBS is. IBS stands for Irritable Bowel Syndrome, and just how it has the impact on their life, and maybe some adjustments that they can make and some approaches for kind of alleviating and managing those symptoms. So enlighten us, please.
Sure. So IBS or irritable bowel syndrome is diagnosed typically by either a primary care doctor or gastroenterologist,
Hmm.
using something called the Rome 4 criteria. So it's basically a grouping of symptoms. So if you have two out of these three symptoms, they
Hmm.
diagnose you with irritable bowel syndrome.
What are those symptoms that they want you to have to be
They're
considered?
mostly centered around bowel movements and abdominal pain. So
Hmm.
the Rome 4 criteria, they update it every year or every couple of years. So a lot of it is abdominal pain. If you have abdominal pain with bowel movements, and if the abdominal pain is relieved by having a bowel movement, and if it's a certain amount of days per week of the predominant symptom. So there are three types of IBS. There's IBS D, as in dog, so that's IBS with diarrhea as the predominant symptom.
Hmm.
IBS C, that's constipation as the predominant symptom. And there's IBS mixed type, which is a fluctuation of both.
Okay. So I guess you have to be transparent enough to your doctor, to your medical professional, with all these things that are actually going on.
Oh yeah, and yeah. I mean, by the time patients will start talking about this with their doctor, it's
Mhm.
become, impactful enough on quality of life that it can be ignored. So
Okay.
this is
Okay.
not just, having certain bathroom habits or being particular about where we use the bathroom. Some patients don't like to use the bathroom in public. They'd
Hmm.
rather be home. We're not talking about that. This is something that is very debilitating for a lot of people.
Okay.
Whether it's on the diarrhea side of the spectrum or the constipation side of the spectrum, something that they deal with weekly.
Okay.
So yeah.
So it's not just something where it's like, oh, I'm having this period of time where my stomach is irritated by something. This is something that's like
No,
ongoing.
it'll be a
And
chronic. It'll be a chronic
okay.
issue. It'll be a
Okay.
chronic issue. And a lot of times, um, depending on the doctor or the gastroenterologist, they'll put patients through a whole gamut of testing. Um, from sometimes they check labs
Hmm.
to make sure nothing else is going on because the patient's going to present with symptoms of, I don't have a bowel movement, but twice a week, or I go consistently 3 to 4 days without having one, or I have 4 plus a day. So in a perfect
Okay.
world, they don't diagnose IBS just with those symptoms. They'll do a full workup. So that is, checking labs, make sure there's nothing bigger that is being missed, doing a colonoscopy if it's appropriate, doing some imaging like a CT of the abdomen to make sure that the organs are looking okay. They call IBS a diagnosis of exclusion, actually. So it's
Okay.
sort of to where when nothing else comes up, it's sort of
Hmm.
called IBS. There is a criteria for it.
Okay.
However, we like to check before we just say it's IBS because we could be missing something bigger, like celiac disease, for example, where patients have an autoimmune response to gluten. I'm sure we'll get to
Okay.
that, but
Yeah.
when they have an autoimmune response, meaning they don't just go gluten free for fun. It's causing damage to the small intestine if they eat it. So it's a whole different ball
Oh,
game.
wow. Oh,
Um,
wow.
so yeah, so a good doctor will take you through that testing before they say you just have IBS and we just have to manage the symptoms.
So, do you see a lot of doctors being able to do this on their own, or are they partnering with dietitians like you to refer out? Like, how does this normally happen for a person that's sitting here, listening to this, and they think they might have it? Do you think they should ask for a specialist, or like, what do you think they should do?
Well, just bring it. So I find that most people it's harder, I think, for younger populations because younger patients we find don't really see doctors regularly. So it's
Mm,
not something that, okay, you get your yearly physical, you might bring it up then, but bring it up to whoever your healthcare provider is, whether
okay.
for women, if it's just your OBGYN, well, you bring it up to her. And then that would prompt her to investigate further or refer you to a gastroenterologist, which is a specialist,
Okay.
So it takes speaking up. The patients will have to say, hey, this has been going on for quite a while now. It's bothering me. I want to investigate it further. Um, and then it gets to the gastroenterologist. And then I work with a team of gastroenterologists, and that's how it gets to me.
Okay, okay. And I like, you know what? See, here you go, keeping it real. I love it because some women, like you said, they don't go to the doctor regularly, but baby, they're gonna see the gynecologist. They're gonna see the
Right.
OBGYN.
Right,
So
exactly,
I
yeah.
didn't even
That's
know
just
that
a
you can
common
bring
thing that I see a lot.
okay, I didn't even know that you could bring that up to the OBGYN.
I mean, yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
if something is bothering you and you don't see a healthcare provider often, when you do see one, yeah, I'd recommend you bring it up.
And even though they don't know anything about it, they will be able to point you
Get
in the
you
right
to who
direction.
does, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we had a comment from the audience already, and so
Okay.
let's switch gears a little bit. Girl, I have just been diagnosed with diverticular. I had a flare, but very aware of what it is and what foods are good. It is almost like IBS. Can you speak to this a little bit?
Sure. So, thank you for commenting. What likely that is diverticulosis or diverticulitis. I think the word cut off.
Mm-hmm.
But diverticulosis is actually very common, just like IBS is very common.
Okay.
It's basically when little pouches form in the large intestine or the colon. Little out pouches is what we call them. And so when stool is going through, those little pouches can get infected,
Okay.
because it's like a pressure release almost. Typically, this is caused by long-term constipation over several years. But when they get infected, we call it diverticulitis, or the
Mm-hmm.
inflammation of the diverticulosis.
Mm-hmm.
And those are extremely painful, extremely, extremely, extremely painful,
Mm-hmm.
and requires hospitalization, IV fluids, IV antibiotics a lot of the times because it becomes an infection in the colon itself.
Okay, so I am big on preventative health,
Yeah.
wellness, like before stuff happens.
Hmm.
What is so I like to get to the root of how did this happen to this person? And I know from being your sister that things are like a pile up over time a lot of times.
Most
So
often, they can be, depending
okay,
on what it is. Some things just happen. Some things
okay,
honestly just spontaneously happen.
okay,
Um,
okay.
that can be a genetic component or environmental, or not sure, but
Mm-hmm.
um, they can just spontaneously happen. We can be predisposed to certain things, but that's why it's good to have monitoring. They move the age up. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the American College of Gastroenterology moved the age up from 50 to 45 to start
Mm-hmm.
getting colonoscopies, because colon cancer is so preventable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, oh, hey, I don't know who that
I
is,
know
but this is
people are saying hey to you. They're saying hello.
okay. Okay.
For those of you listening in, we are live in my private Facebook community called Seeking Bliss, a global community for women's elevation. And this is one of the perks that we bring into the community, their option to interact with us and have conversations with us. Oh, it's morning. It's morning. Hey,
Oh,
morning.
hi, morning.
so, so yeah, so back to what you were saying, it could be genetic and it can be spontaneous. So
Mhm.
so tell me, like, okay, you already mentioned that that's why screening is important and that they move the age up to younger so that people can see and start to manage this kind of thing right away. So besides the monitoring for people that it happens to over time through their lifestyle habits, I mean, is that a thing that these things can show up due to different lifestyle habits where we can
We don't know
be
for
preventative?
sure yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with the current research that shows that there is a particular habit or diet or lifestyle that causes more diverticulosis. I do
Mm-hmm.
know it's caused from years of constipation over time.
Okay.
That's one of the major things. So the
Okay.
preventative to prevent diverticulitis flares is to prevent constipation. You
Okay.
can kind of visualize it. If your stool is sitting in your colon for longer than it should, right? The setting of
Mm-hmm.
constipation, that increases the likelihood that the stool will kind of pop into one of those diverticulosis pouches and cause an infection.
Okay.
So my
Okay.
treatment for my patients who have diverticulosis is to keep things moving. We talk a lot about
Okay.
fiber, we talk about a more plant-based diet, we talk about differences between soluble fiber and insoluble fluid, all that good stuff. So that would be the preventative for that one.
Okay. I love it. I
But
love
it's
it.
super common though. It is.
Really?
Yeah. But we just don't, unless there's a problem, we're not getting colonoscopies,
Right. Right.
just as part of our physical. So sometimes it's an incidental finding until it becomes a flare, and then when you're having a flare.
Have you and I don't know if you have, and I know you've spoken internationally, but I don't know if your research is international. Is this, you know, I tend to think a lot of things are caused by SAD, the standard American diet.
Hmm. Yeah.
So are you aware, or have you done, or have you spoken to anybody about research in other areas where their diets are different, their consumption is different than ours?
No, not for diverticulosis. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't. I haven't looked into different countries and comparing them, because I guess my focus area is just taking care of my patients here.
Right.
But that would be an interesting area of research to look into. Yeah.
Yeah. You know that I am so interested in international things, and I was actually just at your house the other night.
Yeah.
I spent the night at my sissy's house, y'all, because I had a lecture to go to. Dan Buettner was in town. He was in Charlotte from the Blue Zones, and if you aren't familiar with the blue zones, it's where they have the highest concentration of people living and thriving over 100 years old. I'm talking about somebody 106 riding a four-wheeler and gardening and chopping wood and things like that, and making food from scratch and making wine from scratch and things like that, and picking herbs and all that kind of stuff. So I'm always interested in global differences and cultural differences. And, just like you were saying, Dan Buettner was talking about, different keys to longevity and health and wellness, thriving within not just reaching 100 years old, but like being
Right,
happy in
right.
100. You know what
Thriving.
I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, one of the things was they eat 90 to 100% plant-based diet, meaning they're like eating meat during a community celebration, like less than 5 times a year. And not only that, but they're like making a lot of things from scratch, and making a lot of things with whole food ingredients, things like that.
Mhm.
Even like they drink wine every day, but it's homemade wine that they've squashed and fermented the grapes and all that kind of stuff there
Right.
themselves. So can you talk a little bit about, I mean, I know, like you said, like some things just happen, but what are some, I mean, even besides plant based, or maybe just even like one practical tip, because people can tend to get overwhelmed, right? So we don't want to overwhelm them. What's some, what's like one best adjustment that they can make to manage their symptoms at least?
Of which disorder? IBS or diverticulosis?
Let's go with one first and then do the other.
Okay, so IBS is it's kind of that's not really a cut and dry one, but
Okay.
the diverticulosis, I would say the biggest tip is just to eat more fiber. I think there was a comment about that too. Eating more
Mhm.
fiber, because one thing
Mhm.
about the SAD diet, the standard American diet, it's not just the meat consumption, it's the lack of fruit and vegetable consumption, right? So two different things.
Ooh, say okay,
So,
hold on, run that back. I like that. I like that. So
oh,
it's not just that you're eating meat, it's that you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables. So
correct.
let's take the focus off of, oh, I'm a bad girl because I ate meat. It's
Right,
like,
because for
no,
me,
you
just
need
in
to
my
eat.
experience, my patients just they don't receive that well, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
instead of having the what I call the subtraction mindset, we do the addition mindset. What can we add
Mm,
instead of what can we subtract? Because I'm
I
not the
love
food
that.
police, I don't want to
Yeah.
take people's, Friday night fried fish ritual from them. So I'm all about, okay, what can we add? So
Mhm.
for both IBS constipation predominant and diverticulosis, it's all about increasing fiber.
Okay.
For IBS D with diarrhea predominant, there are research proven elimination style diets that help identify what the dietary trigger is. That one is a
Okay.
little bit more challenging. And that one, sometimes we do have to subtract things out of the diet.
Okay.
Um, but I think honestly, the one tip for most GI disorders is to eat more fiber. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, I mean,
Okay.
even if no matter what it is, you could benefit from eating more fiber.
Right. No matter what, everybody
Yeah,
can benefit from eating more
right,
fiber.
right,
Okay,
right.
cool, cool. This is good. Okay, we've got some more interaction from the audience. This person says, it's funny, Jamie, as you know, my mom is 94 and has never been on a certain diet, and she has no dementia or any medical issues. Doctors are always surprised that I don't take medication here in South Carolina where we live. So in my mother and family's case, it's the genes are rich, and that's very important. And scientists are studying this now. So it's funny. I find a lot of people talking about how older people, and even in discussing the blue zones, the centenarians, they were following their lifestyles. And some of the places are no longer blue zones because they've gotten more modern technologies and more modern ways of eating.
Yeah.
What do you think it is or was about old school lifestyles and the way people were doing things 94 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the way they carried that on? What do you think it is something that's staying with them, that is allowing them to live a life that's different from the younger people just starting out? What do
You
they
know
have?
what? That's a really good question that I think about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of my patients ask me the same thing because they have the same sort of story.
Mm-hmm.
Some people want to say it's processed food. Some people want to say it's too much television or whatever. Honestly, I think it's cooking. I think people of older generations just cooked more at home.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they were having pork, even if they were having frying foods in their home, even if they were having home fries, whatever the food that you can name, it was made at home. So I
Yeah.
think that's probably the biggest thing. There's multiple factors that could be contributing to it, but I think it's that. I think we probably need to cook more.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because it's like you think you're getting French fries in a frozen bag and they just frozen potatoes. But no, that's not it. They've already seasoned them, salted them. They've already put maltodextrin in them and whatever else, preservatives or sugar flavored things to make you buy it over and over again. So that's one of the things that I noticed about the people in the blue zones as well, that were living into these higher ages and still thriving, is that they were making, not just cooking at home, but using their own ingredients, and making a lot of things from scratch, even
Yeah.
things that especially Americans like to think that we need to completely eliminate, like don't eat any bread. Oh, they were eating bread by the ton, but they
Right.
were making it from scratch
Right.
themselves. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest difference. Again, I don't have the research to connect that. There isn't a
Yeah.
randomized control trial that I'm familiar with at this moment that speaks
Hmm.
to that, but it just makes sense. That seems to be the
Yeah,
trend.
it really is. Dang, it's crazy. Like the more forward we go, the more we realize we need to go backwards.
Exactly right.
So
Yep.
crazy. Okay. You are popular, Kayla, because we
Oh,
have some more communication from the
okay.
audience. Okay. They want you to talk about FODMAP. I've heard you talking about this before. Can you
Okay.
talk about FODMAP, stress related flare ups, and how to deal? The I've been living with the best thing for flare ups are sleep and water.
Oh,
So
that's
I
what
get
you were told. That's what they were told.
they were told sleep and water is best. So can you talk about FODMAP, and what the heck that stands for people that don't know?
Sure. Absolutely. So, FODMAP. So it stands for fermentable carbohydrates. So each of the other letters are types of carbohydrates. If we want to get down to
Okay.
specifics, it's a tongue tie, but here we go. Fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. Okay.
Whoa.
All that means is
Mind
all that
blown.
means is it's just different types of carbohydrates. So that's all that means. But
Okay,
what
so wait.
happens is,
Hold on. I'm sorry. I need this broken down. I need this broken
okay,
down. So FODMAPs is fermentable carbohydrates.
yes,
And the ODMAP part of FODMAP is the types of carbohydrates.
right.
Okay, so if people are on a FODMAP diet, so to speak, or they eat in a FODMAP way, they're eating fermentable carbohydrates.
Well, no, let me back up a second. So
Okay.
that's what that stands for.
Okay.
Now, the diet that has the most research behind helping IBS symptoms is called the low FODMAP diet.
Okay, so you're trying to avoid the FODMAPs.
That's what the diet does. Yes,
Okay.
but it's an
Okay.
elimination diet. So this is why it even matters. There are certain carbohydrates that when we digest them, they're not, without me getting too, I guess, in depth, they're basically not digested well.
Mm-hmm.
And our gut bacteria rapidly ferments them. So we have gut bacteria that's hanging out in our small intestine, living their best life, right? Not bothering
Mm-hmm.
us a bit. But there
Mm-hmm.
are certain foods that have these certain types of carbohydrates that when we eat them, our small intestine bacteria kind of chews them up, eats them up, and ferments them. Well, if you've ever seen something that's fermented, whether it be sauerkraut, kimchi, maybe Greek yogurt, there's bubbles. Bubbles kind of happen as a side effect of fermentation.
Okay.
That's like a
Like
byproduct.
kombucha,
Kombucha,
like
yeah.
alcohol, ferment alcohol,
Yeah, so
beer. Yeah.
bubbles or gases are the byproducts of anything fermented.
Okay.
Now, why that matters and why it flares IBS is that when those foods are fermented, like on a molecular level, they produce bubbles. So those bubbles build up in the colon,
Mm-hmm.
causing the colon to retain water, causing it to swell and stretch and make us feel bloated, gassy, crampy, and also these carbohydrates are not absorbed as well. So our colon does not like when things are not broken all the way down. And the
Okay.
colon's response to that is, let's get rid of it. So then this is where we get, I have to run to the bathroom, have a bowel movement, might be formed, might be not. So that's kind of the cascade of events that happen with these particular foods. Now, let me
Mm-hmm.
be clear, they're perfectly healthy foods. Apples is one of them, onions and garlic is another, wheat pasta is another, stone fruits, avocado, peaches, plums,
Wow.
nectarines,
Okay.
lactose is a FODMAP food. That's probably the
Okay.
most common one. Most people are lactose intolerant. We
Right.
don't really bat an eye at that. We understand that. And so we don't eat a lot of dairy or we get lactose free. That's another example of a FODMAP.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all of these different foods. We're not going to be sensitive to all of them, but the goal of the low FODMAP diet, like any elimination diet, is to go through the trial and error process of figuring out what the trigger is.
That is so crazy that you described it like that, as like producing bubbles, because that just,
Yeah.
when people talk about getting the bubble guts, that's literally what's happening.
Could
It-
be, yeah. That it could be one of the things, but yes, there's a whole slew of reasons why that could happen, if you eat something
yeah.
that wasn't cooked properly or
Yeah.
but yes. So stress, let me talk about that, just kind of breaking down the other component of that comment.
Okay.
Stress does worsen all of these symptoms. So most
Okay.
of our nerves exist in our intestinal lining. So whenever you get butterflies, when you see your favorite person, whenever you have a stomach pain, if you're upset, or if your appetite goes away when you're having a bad day, or if it increases when you're having a bad day, there's something
Mm-hmm.
called the gut brain axis. They are
Yes.
very much interconnected.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So
so yeah. So
you're
stress
so
does cause
you're
flare ups.
oh my gosh. Okay. So the gut brain axis is all connected. You're this is the mind body part of the mind body connection. So
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like I'm emotionally upset.
Right.
And so all of those emotions are causing interactions within my gut.
Correct.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's
So,
very, very sensitive. So they kind of have a feedback system. They talk to each other, which is why stress, and it depends on the person. So stress can cause some
mhm,
people to overeat. It can cause some other people to undereat. We have stress eaters and we have stress not eaters.
mhm,
So it just depends on
mhm.
the person. But I don't agree with the best thing for flare ups is sleep and water. I think we can get a bit more specific than that.
Okay.
So, um, yeah. So I think that going through that elimination diet
Mhm.
might be an option. Um, Making a food journal, kind of a food symptom journal, which yes is tedious, but sometimes we have to do that work up front to find the answer.
Yeah.
So just jotting down what you eat and jotting down what your symptoms are and see if you can find relationships.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, IBS is just not cut and dry.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
so
There's so much to it.
yeah.
Okay. Someone else commented saying, I hardly eat fast foods, but I think your sister nailed it on the head. So, yeah, this is important what we're talking about.
Mhm.
You may not be eating fast foods, but you still may need to break it down even further into eating whole foods and taking a look at some of the ingredients within your packaged items, and
Mm-hmm.
really understanding what it is that you're consuming. And I had someone else that was commenting, said they're gone to a meeting now, so, and they want to thank you.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
now I want to address this comment. Somebody said it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is like because you're going through lifestyle change, a habit change. You may have been doing the same things for 40 or 50 years, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you have to switch it up. So, how do you take your clients through your patients through this? I'm sorry, your patients, when somebody says it's hard.
Well, I try to break it down into small parts, right? Just like
Mm-hmm.
any big thing that we're faced with, we can always break it down into small parts. So we start with dietary recall. So I ask in depth questions about breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks in between, weekdays versus weekends. So just get a full intake. Just figure out what you're doing first, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the first step. We can all look online and say, "Oh, this person tried this juice diet. This person tried that," but we don't know what else they're doing. So focusing on what you're doing first and see if we can nip little habits that might make a difference. So for example, if you're a soda drinker, there is lots of research that shows that concentrated sugars lead to more IBS flares, and artificial sugars as well. So
Mm-hmm.
can we swap it out for a sparkling flavored something alternative? So
Okay.
finding alternatives is going to be a lot easier than just taking everything out. I never ever try to do that unless I absolutely have to.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say to the it's so hard. Yeah, it is kind of hard, but what I tell my patients is if it gets you symptom relief, I think it's worth it.
Right. Right. It's funny because I recently did like a self assessment because I'm working with people all the time on their own personal development. That means I'm constantly reflecting on my own personal development journey, right?
Right,
And
right.
so you start to think of yourself in these little categories of how is this going? It's like, oh, my love life is amazing. Check. You know,
Mhm.
my relationships and friendships are amazing. Check. My household is amazing. Everything is clean and organized. Check. But I'm like,
Mhm.
ooh, but I still got a fupa and
A
jiggly
what?
a fupa. I think so. Fupa is I think it's FUPA, which I think it stands for fat upper P word area.
Oh my
So
god.
your
Okay.
vagine, we'll call it, and so above your private area for women, the V word is the lower pouch, the lower abdominal area.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
so the U is for upper, but only because it's above the P word.
Uh-huh.
So fat upper P word area. I
Uh-huh.
believe, I could be totally wrong, but I believe that's where the word fupa comes from. So
Okay.
yeah, basically that bottom gut, that little
Okay.
jiggly bottom gut that a lot of women struggle with, especially if they are mothers. But I'm big on self-assessment, right? And then kind of adjusting for what it is that you like. And I know you like this too. So one of the things I had to realize about myself, and this could change
Mhm.
over time, but
Yeah.
right now, I enjoy eating. I like
Mm.
food. And
Okay. That's not a
I
problem.
no. And because I know I like to eat so much, I have decided that it's more important to me for what I want to do and what makes me happy to go more whole food because I've been plant-based for 8 years, okay? So I
Mhm.
got that down. But I started noticing about myself that I was still eating a lot of packaged items, a lot
Okay.
of pre-made items.
Mhm.
So like frozen vegan pizzas, like, ooh, I'm so excited. I still get to eat pizza. Or the Guardian products, they taste good, like for the mock meats, but it's
Right.
still a processed food. It's still a mix up, mash up, mix together of all of these things that they're
Mhm.
still mass producing and selling.
Right.
So because it's important to me to not be counting and monitoring and to eat whatever I want whenever I want, I decided to eat more whole foods, just period.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So so do you have what normally works for people, like just seeing what's up with them and what they want to do? Does that help when you do that assessment with them and say, what are you eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner and weekends, and help them be more of themselves but with an adjustment?
Um, yes. So that does work, but I think helping patients find resources also to recreate their favorite foods that are processed, or just talk about their weekly schedule and how we can maybe create a time for you to prep things ahead of time so it feels like
Mm-hmm.
it's a cool item that you just pop in the oven, but it's something that you made yourself, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um yeah. So, I mean, I think that's also important. But honestly, I focus a lot on symptom management. So, in my
Okay.
world of GI, which is why I love it so much, I love seeing improvement of symptoms and patients come to me and tell me that they feel better. It's like the best feeling ever.
Mm-hmm.
So, we focus on the symptom and not anything else, really. We focus
I
on how
agree.
can we get rid of the symptom? How can we reduce the symptom? And it sort of takes the pressure off of following a perfect diet, and we really just focus on what fixes the thing that's bothering them, which in
Mm-hmm.
the case of IBS would be abdominal pain or cramping that puts them out of work for a day or two, or having to run to the bathroom multiple times a day, or having lots of pain because they haven't gone to the bathroom in several days, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I think it's
Yeah.
just maybe like mental reframing, you know.
Yeah.
um because I have a lot of patients that also want to lose weight, right? So they see
Yeah.
me, we talk about IBS or we talk about other things, but they also want to lose weight. And I say, a lot of times when you get other things in line, the weight loss just sort of happens because you feel better. You are more
Yeah.
motivated and you are more active.
Right.
So we kind of do it in a roundabout way. So
Yeah, like putting the weight loss on the back burner
yeah,
and
yeah,
letting it just be a symptom of living a better life and better consumption anyway. And like you said,
yeah.
focusing on the symptoms, what's bothering you. Cause my food ain't bothering nobody.
No, I wouldn't. No, don't be hard on yourself about it. And it's interesting because I heard this quote the other day, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but I think someone says instead of being obsessed with the result of whatever you want,
Mm-hmm.
get obsessed with the behavior that's going to
Yep.
get you the result.
Yep. I've heard that quote. Be obsessed with the process. And you didn't butcher it. It was perfect.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
love it because that's what I advocate. That's what I advocate with my clients and my group and my educational approach, that
Hmm.
we need to live in a way that we're not this is not a quick fix, okay?
Right.
I
Of
mean,
course.
if you're talking about some serious symptoms, yeah, you are looking for a quick fix. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Faster
Right.
than slower, but
A
yeah,
quicker fix,
quicker.
right?
Yeah.
But you still have to maintain that. And
Hmm.
so get obsessed with the process, get obsessed with the lifestyle of living this way and
Hmm.
becoming this person instead of obsessing over a result.
Right.
Yeah,
That
I
makes a
love
huge
that.
difference for a lot of
Yes.
things.
Awesome. Okay, wow, that was a lot. That was a lot. Everybody
Yeah.
is very engaged with you, so I love it. I don't even know, we have some other things that we want to talk about. So let's
Yeah.
go through them and see if we might have even already touched on some other things.
Okay.
So let's talk about, I know gluten-free diets have become very, very popular. Are
Hmm.
they legit? Like, is this just like the next thing, the next Atkins diet or whatever, beach body, all these diets that they come up with and that they remix and everything. Is this real?
So yes, so for some it is perfectly appropriate and real. There are some areas where it's not as appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So for someone who presents to their gastroenterologist or their primary care doctor or their friend and they're
Mhm.
saying, I am just having severe abdominal pain. I am fatigued all the time. I cannot keep my eyes open. I'm having to run back and forth to the bathroom with very loose stools. Every time I eat, I don't know what to do. They go to the doctor. If they go to a good doctor, they will do either a colonoscopy to check and see what's going on, or a lab. And typically, part of that lab will be to see if the person has something called celiac disease, which
Okay.
is what I was saying earlier, is an autoimmune sort of response to gluten. Now, the only treatment for that is a gluten-free diet. The reason that's really important is because for someone who has celiac disease, if they continue to eat gluten, they will damage the intestinal lining of their small intestine. Well, what
Mhm.
happens in the small intestine? That's where lots of our vitamins and minerals are absorbed. So then the person will have malnutrition, vitamin deficiencies, lots of weight loss, all these issues. There was a really good study on children in third world countries, like with the big bellies and like all of this. A lot of
Yeah.
them had undiagnosed celiac disease, but there was just
Wow.
not a lot of help, and not a lot of people out there diagnosing it at the time. I think now we're more progressive and we're trying to get ahead of it. But yeah, so for those patients, absolutely necessary. That's the only treatment to prevent that damage to the small intestine. For everyone else, I do not know if it is a combination of placebo, or they are actually removing a high FODMAP food. So wheat is a high FODMAP food, meaning it has the same
Okay.
type of carbohydrates in it that are fermented by our gut bacteria, and that could potentially cause what I call just GI upset. So a lot of
Wow.
patients will come to me and say, I tried gluten-free diet. They're not celiac. I tried gluten-free diet for my IBS and I feel so much better. Okay, great. I mean, wheat is considered high FODMAP. It's not unhealthy, right? So it's
Mhm.
not bad
Mhm.
for us, but it is one of those carbohydrates that goes through that process. So patient might feel less bloated. Patient might feel less just discomfort. Distension. We talk about bloating and distension. Bloating is more you feel like you have a balloon in your belly.
Okay.
That's sort of a different sensation than abdominal distension, where you feel like every time you eat, you have to unbutton your pants. That's
Okay.
kind of different. Um,
Okay.
so sometimes you have symptom relief. I think that would be the same thing as if you were someone that ate a lot of candy or drank a lot of coffee, and then you change it and you feel different or better. You're like, oh, I just changed a habit that I was doing that probably my body didn't like.
Okay. Okay. So
Um,
it's like sometimes people are eating things with gluten in them, but it wasn't the gluten, it was the thing. Like maybe
correct.
they were eating a lot of pasta or a lot of pizza, or the pasta or pizza that they were eating had tomatoes on it and onions on it, or other things that
Right.
were bothering them. And
Yeah.
so by eliminating that, they eliminated the food that they were always eating. And so they may be misguided in thinking that it was the gluten, but it was some other things in the ingredients all along.
Right. It's
Hmm.
just kind of it changes your routines, and it changes the foods that you interact with or consume. Just like
Hmm.
when someone starts a vegan diet. I mean, we talked about this before. There are
Yeah.
some restaurants you just can no longer go to.
Right.
Period. So you're not going to
Right.
be affected by maybe the foods that are not as healthy at those restaurants. It just
Right.
goes hand in hand. But the only thing that can be harmful about a gluten-free diet. One is if you are someone who struggles with maintaining your weight or keeping weight on. I don't think we talk about that a lot. We talk about weight loss a lot, but not the other way around.
Yeah.
You're taking out a huge source of calories, so you're going to have to supplement that in some other way. So increase your healthy fats with nut butters or avocado or other things, or increase your portion size of your vegetables and protein to offset that. The other issue is B vitamins. So, for whatever reason, that's B as in boy, whatever
Hmm.
reason, B vitamins exist in wheat products. So in breads and pastas and whatever. That's vitamin B12, which I think most of us are familiar with for
Yeah.
energy, vitamin B6, vitamin B1, a lot of these vitamins that are responsible for energy metabolism. And so when we go on a gluten-free diet, sometimes we get a little cranky, sometimes we get a little fatigued because we may be deficient. So for a
Um,
patient that is on a gluten-free diet, anyone, whether you have celiac or not, I always recommend, okay, let's supplement with a B complex vitamin to fill in those
wow.
gaps.
Wow. See, this is why you need an expert, because you need somebody to bounce things off of. You
Yeah.
can't be Googling and what's the medical thing that people usually go
Like,
on and self-diagnose?
oh, WebMD.
Yeah,
Yeah.
WebMD. You you can't be doing all of that stuff because yes, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? So,
Hmm.
yes, you're gaining the knowledge from looking at this stuff, but you don't have the wisdom and the insight and the professional practice to be able to decipher out these little nuances.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So cool. So cool. So, let's move on. Ooh, let's talk about supplements. And I
Okay.
already know this is one of your things where you're like, oh my gosh, people do not need to be overly obsessed with supplements like they think they need to be.
Yeah.
And I actually, when I was at in your city and I was listening to the Blue Zones lecture, the guy there he's done what, he's been 20 years of research, whatever it is, all these other medical professionals with him and universities and all this kind of stuff. And he said, people ask him, well, what's the best supplement? And he said, a cup of beans a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I share that same way of thinking. I think a lot of times just thinking about the perfect food to eat all the time can be overwhelming, right? I
Yeah.
totally understand that. So we're like, okay, well, what supplements can I do instead? We
Yeah.
are not using supplements to replace foods. Ultimately, no matter what the supplement, it's always going to come back to food. So I like to make that clear. Whatever we're
Yeah.
supplementing, we should be getting from food, but for whatever reason, we're not.
That's
So,
why it's called a supplement. It's
right.
not called replacements.
Right, exactly. Exactly right. So, supplements for GI. So, I mean, the biggest one is fiber, right? So, I talk
Hmm.
a lot about fiber supplementation. Um, so if for some reason it's either overwhelming or it's kind of too fresh, or it's not possible, instead of increasing fiber foods, we increase or start a fiber supplement. So specific ones that I really like: psyllium husk, which the spelling of that is really hard. I think it's PSY, starts with a P as in Paul, PSYUILLUM, maybe.
I'm gonna look it up. Okay, I'm gonna pop it on the screen.
Okay.
It's PSYLLIUM
Okay,
Husk.
PSYLLIUM. Okay. Yes. So psyllium husk is a natural soluble fiber that patients or that anyone can use to help get things moving.
Okay.
That can be found over the counter, Amazon, wherever you shop.
Okay.
So that's a good supplement. That's great just for overall gut health, because that is going to be essentially what you'd be missing in your diet.
Okay.
So, um,
I never heard of that one before. I've never heard of psyllium husk.
yeah, that's basically the supplement form. You would get the same result from doing like ground flax seed or ground
Okay.
chia seeds.
Okay.
They both are all a soluble fiber. So which is why chia pudding is a thing. So
Okay.
the chia seeds, they release their soluble fiber. That's how they turn other things into gel. That gel, our colon goes crazy for. So that
Hmm.
is the fiber gel that coats our colon and helps everything like move on through.
Okay.
So that's just a visual of it. Another
Okay.
visual of fiber that you can probably see is if you've ever overcooked pasta, like
Yeah.
there's like a gelatinous sort of something that forms in the
Mm-hmm.
water or above the
Yeah.
water. That's the fiber just coming out. So that's supposed to be in us. When we
Okay.
overcook pasta, we can see it. So
Okay.
fiber supplement is going to be my number one supplement all the time for anything
Okay.
gut health related. Um, I have to talk about probiotics. I don't like talking about probiotics, but I will. So probiotics, the preference is always going to be to get them from your food. So if
Mm.
you are someone who eats dairy, the easiest way to do that is Greek yogurt or anytime, of day. It doesn't have to be breakfast, but added to a dish or used as a dip or whatever, or other fermented foods. So we also get probiotics from eating colorfully on our plate. So
Okay.
reds, blues, yellows, oranges, having color on our plate is a good way to get natural probiotics, which
Mm-hmm.
all that means is good gut bacteria. So, food is going to be the preference again, but there are supplements that are out there that are probiotics. My 2 cents on that is that the only time that they are truly indicated, meaning necessary, is when you have had food poisoning, right? Like, so you get food poisoning, you're not feeling well, and you need to replace a good gut bacteria that was maybe lost because you were vomiting or in the bathroom because of that food poisoning. That's a short course, maybe 2 weeks, and you're done. Not necessary to have more than that.
Okay.
I also recommend probiotics after international travel, not because there's anything wrong with international foods, but because if you live in the United States and then travel outside the country and then eat their food, that's a
Mm-hmm.
totally different environment and totally different foods that your gut bacteria is not used to. So that
Okay.
would be another situation where you would have maybe 2 weeks to a month of a probiotic. Um, Other instances is when you are prescribed a antibiotic for another reason. So if
Mm-hmm.
someone gives you amoxicillin or penicillin or a Z-Pak or any antibiotic that's prescribed for any infection, it's nice to then follow that up with a probiotic.
Okay. So you're saying, and it's, I mean, I'm not surprised that even the things that are good for you under certain circumstances, they try to just market them and sell them to anybody
Yeah.
and everybody. And you should be having this every day. But I like how you said, and someone else commented saying that they like how you said, eat colorfully, you
Oh
know,
yeah. Yeah.
just showing that most of the things you do need to be coming from your food. Because, like you said, well, probiotics, you don't necessarily need to have them unless you've had these certain circumstances, right?
The pill form, correct. You don't
Okay,
necessarily
the
need the
pill
pill
form.
form. We
Okay,
always
as a
need good,
supplement.
right, as a supplement. Yeah, we're always
Mm-hmm.
going to need good gut bacteria, and we get that from eating good fibers and having a variety of color in our diet. One thing that
Okay.
I always like to touch on is whenever we sort of feel like I don't know what to eat, I don't know what to do, take it back to children. I always use children as examples of behaviors that we lost and need to come back
Mm-hmm.
to. So if you think about if you had enough time in the world, right? I understand working moms and whatnot. If you think
Mm-hmm.
about what you may feed a child, someone who's maybe 2 to 5 years old, how you would design their plate, you might put whatever protein source is, whether it's beans or a piece of grilled chicken or a piece of fish, whatever your child or you like, then you're probably going to have a side of fruit there. You're going to have a little fruit cup
Mm-hmm.
for them, whatever fruit that they like, whether it's oranges or sliced apple. I mean, even McDonald's gives apple slices with their kids' meals, or they used to.
Right.
So then you're going to try to sneak in some kind of vegetable for your child, right? Whether
Yep.
you sneak it in the spaghetti sauce or you find something that they like and it's broccoli and you make a little name for it and they find it fun and make them eat it, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
For some reason, we lose that when we grow up. So
We
whenever
we
you're
feel like only kids need to have good health.
right, right. We're like only kids need to have good health. It's just that. So I think that way of thinking will help you be like, okay, I know how to make a plate for me. So
Yeah.
how my plate should look. Yes, there are going to be times where children just eat chicken tenders and French fries.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But if it was an ideal setting, what would your plate look
How
like
would
that
you
you would
like your
give a
child to
child?
eat? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I tell women that for self-care and
Hmm.
self-love and maximizing their main character energy as well. I say treat yourself like you would your most precious loved one.
Yeah.
Why do we try to treat other people better than ourselves? Treat
That is weird,
yourself
isn't
that
it?
way.
I love that
Yeah.
though.
Yes. And like a lot of things that you're saying, just go back to the things that they were saying in the blue zones. Like I
Mm.
said, that Dan Buettner said the best supplement is a cup of beans a day, and just
Mhm.
being, more natural, more holistic,
Mhm.
and like you said, eating colorfully, just being more mindful of the things that you're ingesting.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
When in doubt, think of, would I give this to somebody that I really, really love and want to be their best? If the answer is
Hmm.
no, maybe we should add some fruit on the side or something different.
Right. Add a little something.
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing I want to touch on before we get out of here is things being personalized. And you taught
Hmm.
me this, and this is such a big deal because we listen to, and you've done a really good job of breaking this down, this hour that we've been talking about different things for different people. But
Yeah.
you really taught me this because I get in a mindset where I think one answer is right and everything is black and white, and
Mhm.
everybody should do things this way, the way I've done my personal research on the way it should be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but you've really opened my mind and stretched me, and I appreciate that in understanding that there are different needs for different human beings. And the
Right.
best thing that you can do to discover, oh, what, I don't even want to call it diet, right? Because diets don't work. It's really,
Right.
it's it's your diet, not a diet. Is what is your
Exactly.
diet. So
Right.
what is the best diet for you? What is the best consumption plan for you, your particular set of symptoms, your particular lifestyle? And I
Yeah.
also love that you talked about your particular culture and environment, because it's not that traveling abroad is bad, but they have a whole different set of bacterias and everything over there that their people have grown up with and have different
Right.
immunities to, and things like that, and different things that are within their water and different things that are within your food, that if you go over there it's foreign to you and may
Yeah.
not agree with you. So touch on, please, different things for different people and how important that is.
Um, so I think for that, well, first, getting a good sense of where you're at is one. I always like to start with checking your labs, right? So check your labs
Mm-hmm.
out, get your physicals. I'm a big advocate for just checking in with yourself from a medical standpoint to just see what your needs are. So if you are vitamin D deficient, okay, then we need to talk about that. But if you're not, no need to add another pill or another stress to your day to worry about, am I getting enough of that?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think there's, I guess maybe short answers to that are, there's a healthier version of most things, right? There's a healthier
Yeah.
version of most things. But I will say that out of all the diets and of all the recommendations that I learned about while becoming a dietitian, it all pretty much leads to eating more plant-based foods. It does. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you have to be, if you're listening to this, it does not have to be that you are vegan or are
Mm-hmm.
vegetarian or are pescatarian or are other sorts of variations of eating, but it all comes back to, we probably should be eating more fruits and vegetables. I don't want to sound more like cliche about that, but
Yeah.
that I think is transcends to everyone.
Yeah.
But when it comes to personalized for you, I mean, it would be great if you have a dietitian in your area that you can speak to help build things out for you.
Mm-hmm.
But just focusing on what your needs are. So if your needs are to be able to have the energy and the stamina to play with your kids after school or after work, okay, then we need to focus on, healthy carbohydrates and, energy and electrolytes and things that give you energy. So I think focus on what you want out of life, not for the aesthetics, although we all have our goals and we all have a certain aesthetic that we want, right? But how
Mm-hmm.
do you want to feel? Focus there first. How do you want to feel overall? What do you want to get accomplished in your day? and then focus on that, and then focus on foods that help with that. You don't need to change anything else
Mm.
about your diet, but what can you increase to help you reach that goal?
Wow. So like a food prescription specifically for you
Yeah. Yeah.
and your desires. I love it. Okay. Thank you so much, Kayla. I
You're
love you so much. Thank you
welcome.
for being here. It's always fun to talk to you and pick your brain and
Yeah.
get your expertise. I'm like re-inspired, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
great.
To eat better and better and better and just because it takes a lot of time, right? And this is
Mhm.
what I tell people too when they're like, "Oh, how do you do this and how do you do that?" Especially like being vegan seems to be like one of the most unattainable things that people are like, "Oh, I could never do that. It's just not for me,"
Yeah.
whatever, you know. But like you said, it's just a mental shift, the mental approach of just adding more fruits and vegetables, like basically becoming accidentally more vegan or whatever
Right,
it is. You know what I'm
exactly. That's
saying?
that's that's exactly what it is. The
Yeah.
more we add to our plate, the more it's gonna push some other things off the plate, you know?
Exactly, because you'll fill up on those other things. So it's like
Yeah.
the more fruits and vegetables you eat, the more you'll be filled with antioxidants and this and that and all the things that you need and hydration. It's like a
Mhm.
win-win for everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll continue on this journey. And I've been, like I said, I've been doing that for 8 years. So
Yeah.
we
So,
need
of
to
course,
stop.
there are gonna be fluctuations and changes and seasons and, all
Yeah.
sorts of differences, but
And we just need to get out of the mindset of like everything is happening right now. It's like this life is a journey and just
yeah.
keep on doing it and doing it and doing it. So wow. Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
so much again
You're
for being
welcome. Thank
here.
you for having me.
And I'll probably be wanting to talk to you again.
Of course. Yeah, I'll come on
And
anytime.
have you back on. As you can see, you were very popular. And even though at the time that we're recording this, this is in the middle of the workday for
Yeah.
most people. But
Yeah.
just imagine if this was like a Saturday morning that we were recording this, how many people would want to chime in and hear. So we've got to do something where we do it live on the
Okay.
weekend or something so
Yeah.
people can chime in. But again, our guest today was Kayla Hopkins, MS, RD, LDN, so many letters behind her name. She is a true professional in her craft, international speaker, registered dietitian. She has a passion and a love for food and inspiring and helping other people and living their best lives through their consumption. So everyone enjoy the rest of your week. And Kayla and I are getting out of here. So thank you for tuning in to this live session of the Bliss Code podcast.